Okay, in this video episode, we are solving a quadratic equation, 2x squared plus 3x plus 9 equals 0, and it's probably going to have complex solutions. But how can you tell? Well, first of all, just by looking at it, I can't find two numbers that multiply to give me 9 and add to 3. It's pretty difficult. And a very good test to assert and validate whether or not you can factorize this the regular way, or if you need to use the quadratic formula, is to test it with the discriminant. The discriminant is a big word that means what's under the house here. So we've got this big square root sign. We're looking for the discriminant. The discriminant is denoted by this triangle here. And when the discriminant is less than 0, then we're going to need to use the quadratic formula. So let's have a look at the discriminant part is equal to the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Now, what's under the house, under that radical, if it's a negative, we're working with imaginary numbers. So let's test that out and see if we're going to get a negative with this guy. So all we need is the a, b, and c. So the coefficients of each term, well, a equals 2, b equals 3, and finally on the end, c equals positive 9. They're all positive. We're going to take these guys, put them in the discriminant, and have a look if it's going to be negative. I suspect it will be, but you never know. So let's go b squared. B squared will be 3 squared. So that will be 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 9. Okay, it looks like we're going to get a negative. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 9 is 72. That's going to be way bigger here on the right than over here, the 9 that we're going to get here, which equals the square root of 9 minus 2, 4 is 8, 8 9s are 72, minus 72. Clearly that's going to be less than 0, so we're working with imaginary numbers. We'll finalize the details in here in a moment, but for now, let's see how we can work this out by putting it straight into the quadratic formula. So with the quadratic formula, it's going to equal negative b. Well, there's our b. It's going to be negative 3 plus or minus the square root of b squared. We did it before. There's our b. It's going to be 3 squared minus 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is 9, all over 2a. 2 times a, which is also 2. There's our a, 2 times 2, 2a. Okay, let's continue to solve. So we got negative 3 plus or minus square root 9. We did it before. 9 minus 8 9s are 72. Don't need to go all the way there. All over 2 times 2, which is 4, which equals, what does that equal? Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of what? 9 minus 72. 9 minus 72, that's going to give us a value of 72, take away 9, 63. Yeah, 63. So that's going to be negative 63. Let me just put a border here. Negative 63 all over 2 times 2, which is 4. There's our 4 there. Okay, let's work with that. Let's continue to solve, which equals negative 3 plus or minus. Now that negative 63, we can break it up into 3 boxes. It could be the square root of negative 1 times the square root of what times what gives me 63, and one of them is a perfect square. 9 times 7, 9 is a perfect square, so the square root of 9 times the square root of 7. 7 9s are 63, all over 2 times 2, which is 4. Well, what does that equal? Well, that equals negative 3 plus or minus. Now, the square root of negative 1, you might recall, imaginary unit I is equal to the square root of negative 1. So we can replace the square root of negative 1 with I. So we're going to put an I there. Plus or minus I Square root of 9 is 3, so it's I times 3 times root 7. All over 4. We put it over 4. Okay, let's start to work with this. That's kind of the answer. We've got two answers, two solutions, a plus and a minus, and we're going to put 4 under each one. There's an imaginary part and a real part. So one of them will be x is equal to minus 3 on 4, minus 3 on 4, plus, I'm going to put the I on the end this time. That's actually 3I root 7 all over 4. There's one solution, and the other solution, x equals, still minus, minus 3/4. This time it's minus 3I root 7 all over 4. Doesn't matter what color you write it in. But you can put the I before the 3 or the I on the end, depends on convention, but they all work. There's our two solutions. We've got a real part, imaginary, real, and imaginary. X equals negative 3/4 plus 3I root 7 on 4, and x equals negative 3/4 again, minus 3I root 7 over 4.